All right. So we went out and did it. We bought a house and I would say we got boned.
Yeah, we slipped a little.
You would think at this point in our lives, we're pretty darn experienced. I mean, we haven't bought and sold a lot of homes, but we've done 3.
This is our 3rd.
Think we would miss some pitfalls.
We did not. Get ready for a great episode.
This should be fun.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Hey listeners, ever wonder what it would be like to blow up your comfort zone at the tender age of 50? Well, we did just that. When our last kid went off to college, we hit the road in search of a new hometown. Now we bounce from city to city and bring you along for the ride. This is the Skip Town All-Stars podcast.
Welcome back, All-Stars, to another episode of Skip Town All-Stars. We are so not excited to be talking with you today. Can you believe I just said that?
Well, it's just because of a few experiences we've had in the past, couple weeks. They haven't been terrible, but I just think that at the point we are in our lives, we expect things to go a certain way. And when they don't, we get old angry.
I'm a little bit surly at the moment.
Yeah.
Yes, I am Jack's raging bile duct.
Okay. All right. Well, I can start off by saying that this podcast was brought about from a reel I saw on Instagram. And then everything just kind of spiraled from there.
Yeah.
So there was a reel I saw from a real estate group in Texas. And the real estate group's name is, because I want people to see what I'm referring to. It's called Gifford Group ATX. So it's GIFFORD Group GROUP, A for Austin, TX for Texas. So this reel is really interesting. It goes into how important it is to buy your kid a house.
Mm-hmm.
And
so this is a real estate group. Okay,
yeah.
Got
and the gist of it really falls in line with what we learned being in Savannah and me at Nicaea.
Mm-hmm.
Her son works at Walmart, makes $24,000 a year,
Yep.
bought his first house, $100,000. She got him foot in the door with real estate, creating generational wealth. And
at 23, 24 years old. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's an inspiring story and we've talked about it at length.
Yes. So this reel came up and I thought, oh my God, this is exactly what ICEA has been touting.
Mm-hmm.
Buy your child a home and start generational wealth.
Yeah. Well, help your child buy a home.
Yes.
Yeah.
Her thing was help your child buy a home. Right.
Yeah.
This video is buy your child a home, which I thought, okay, whatever. I'm going to look at this reel. What started off, I know that these women started it off as like a good idea.
Good intentions. The road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Oh, this one was paved with diamonds.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Okay.
So they show in this reel my guess is $2.5 million home. And while they're doing a tour of this home, little captions are popping up.
Wait,
as to,
you said $2.5 million.
Yeah.
You just said $2.5 million.
I'm not a real estate agent, but it's in Austin. The house is beautiful.
You're guessing, right?
Okay, $2 million.
I'm looking at as you're talking, this thing is playing back, and I'm kind of watching and wishing our bathroom was as nice as that one that I just saw.
Oh yeah, there's a pool here too.
Yeah.
Is there a pool? Oh, I'm sorry. No, it's not a pool. It's a fire pit.
It doesn't matter. The ceilings are like 16 feet high.
Yeah. So they're using this house as an example of what you should buy for your child. Okay.
It's a pretty house, but none of my kids are getting this house.
No. And if you saw the comments, it really is a peek into America at large. I'm going to read some of these comments because it really is.
I can't wait. Let's get into the meat potatoes of what people have to say about their $2.5 million house.
Yeah. So there's 814 comments. Let's just start with comment number 1. Okay, cool. I really was wondering what to do with that spare $75,000 I had laying around after bringing a new and expensive dependent into my world. All right, comment number 2. 77.4 million families live below the poverty line in the U.S. And your advice is every parent should buy their child a house. Please stop. Another comment, tell me you're rich without telling me you're rich. Another comment, I can't even buy myself a house. Okay, here's one. Now, give me advice as a parent raising 3 kids under $40,000 a year salary.
They just go on and on.
I was so taken by the comments of people saying, I can't pay my electric bill. I can't pay my phone bill. And you're posting a reel like this. I had to go and look at some of the people that were posting. One lady wrote, I have 2 kids. My husband and I live in an apartment. I don't know if I'll ever be able to afford a home. I looked at her profile. Yeah, she was like a normal family, like cute little pictures in front of a Christmas tree. I think they were out to dinner in another photo. This is a family of 4. She looked roughly in her late 40s. Maybe her husband was early 50s. This post was meant to be educational, but bothersome in so many ways for so many people.
Sounds pretty elitist, but let me ask you a question. The gist of this is they're saying to buy the house for your child. So you purchase it with your money or in your child's name or what?
Yes.
Both?
So, you purchase it what they said, if you look at the pop-ups, the pop-ups explain really well what you should do. Every parent should consider buying a house for their child. Then it says, every child you have, purchase a house for them, put a renter in there. Once that child becomes 18 years old, you have 2 options.
So wait, they're talking about buying kids who aren't even of age yet.
Yeah.
House.
Yeah. Okay. And then they talk about how you can sell that house, take the equity, pay the taxes on the equity, pay for their college education, or you can take the home, sell it, do a 1031 exchange, purchase a home in the college town that they're going to be living in, and then they can live in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
There are nuggets of good advice in there. I would say overall, I think demographic wise, they're aiming at a different target than
the 1%.
They're aiming at least the top 5%. Yeah.
Okay. The top 5. I say the top 1 because they're showing a $2.5 million home as an example.
Yeah.
Okay. It is possible to help your kid buy a home, but let's talk about it realistically, like not in stupid fantasy elitist terms.
Yeah. Let's forget about this post because it's inane to 95% of the population. Nobody is going to just buy their 14-year-old a house and sit on it. If you're going to buy a house, then you're buying an investment property and maybe you give it to your kid one day or something like that. I don't know. It's weird. It's like the messaging is off. It's like they're doing 3 things at once.
They are.
They're like, they're either saying buy an investment property, but you can't buy an investment property in your child's name. So you may be buying it for your children.
Because they're saying generational wealth, but they shouldn't put generational wealth in that.
They should just say, hey, buy a bunch of investment properties or if you have 4 kids, buy 4 investment properties. Oh, that's good advice. You know,
if you have the money.
Do that. But to term it like buy it for your children or what, I don't know. It's weird. I don't know. The whole thing's weird, especially with the house that they're showing. It's like a mansion.
So then I felt like we should do this podcast and talk about what's actually legitimately real for people like us, you and I.
Yeah. And it's gotten real. So
it has.
We started investigating helping our daughter as a first-time buyer to secure her own house in the Corpus Christi real estate market.
Correct.
So that she wasn't throwing all her money away now that she has a job and she's gainfully employed and she's doing great. So it seems like she's going to be employed for the rest of her life.
Hasn't been fired yet.
So, and they love her there. She's doing a great job. But we decided rather than her chucking all her money away into a bigger apartment or a nicer apartment or what have you.
Yeah, because she wanted to move.
Yeah. It was time to look at buying a house. So newsflash. She's in escrow. Mm-hmm. It's almost over. We're almost to the closing date. We have a lot to talk about in terms of how we got here. But anyway, we found a real estate agent in Corpus Christi.
Well, let me just backtrack a minute. Did you know that you only need 3.5% down on a home as a first-time home buyer? We were not aware of that until ICEA told us.
Right.
Houses in Corpus range anywhere from $150,000 to $700,000. Looking at our daughter who makes $45,000 a year, we had to be realistic on what she could afford. Yeah. We felt like $200,000 was the cap, which means a down payment of around $7,000. Of course, you have closing costs. We're going to help her with that. Okay. ICEA finds us a real estate agent. First agent seemed very nice, seemed knowledgeable, shows up at the first house to show Parker with her 7-year-old daughter. So Parker called me and said, yeah, she couldn't really show me even the second or third house because they were going to some sort of fair. Parker said, "Is this normal?" And I said,
Pro move.
Yeah, I said, no. I said, as a first-time home buyer, you want your agent to hold your hand. And most agents who are full-time real estate agents know this. There are a lot of part-time real estate agents. They do very well for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
That was not what we wanted for Parker. And unfortunately, when the woman represented herself to ICEA, she didn't represent herself as a type of person who brings her kids along for showings.
If they were dating, this woman definitely sent her representative.
She sent ICEA her representative for sure.
For sure.
So we had to then find a different real estate agent. How do you do that when you're traveling and your daughter's 23 years old and she doesn't work in real estate?
She doesn't know what to look for, what not to look for.
What to ask.
She doesn't know what to ask.
Right.
And she's just like, okay, I guess I'll put on my makeup and get in the car and go meet this person. So that's kind of it. I mean, that sums up Parker's experience.
So the way she found her current real estate agent was just by chance. She was on Zillow because she's like, this woman isn't sending me anything. And she would say to me, I haven't heard from her in days. And I'd say, okay, go on realtor.com, start just looking at houses that are like under 200,000.
Yep.
And let's go from there. Cut to like a couple hours later, Parker finds a house on Zillow. She calls the agent because she wants to know, I don't know what the question was she had to ask him, or was it there an open house or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
And he tells her, oh, this house is already in escrow. I need to take it down. It moved really quickly. He asks her a couple questions. She ends up liking him. She felt like he knew what he was doing. She called me and said, hey, there's this real estate agent that I talked to when I was looking at a house, and he really kind of knows his stuff. And he has an office here in Corpus. He's based out of San Antonio, but he has an office here.
Mm-hmm.
I think I want him to like maybe represent me. Could he be the one showing me around? So he ended up being her real estate agent.
Patrick.
Yes. So Patrick took her under his wing and started sending her listings. Now, Patrick is unfortunately not in Corpus.
But he's from Corpus. So
He
helps
is.
out a lot.
Tremendously, because he's born and raised there. He knows the area very well. He has an office there. So Parker would go with different agents that were in his Corpus location. So he'd send her like 6 or 7 listings. She'd pick the 2 or 3 she liked. Then like somebody would go out with her and look at houses.
Mm-hmm.
This happened for about 6 weeks. And what was happening is because the amount of money we were willing to spend on a house was so small, anything that was remotely upgraded or remotely move-in ready flew within an hour. I mean, within an hour, she would.
There were a lot of near misses. Yeah.
Yes. She would get there and they would say, oh, 2 people before you came, the one person already put an offer in.
Yeah. That one place they went to, there wasn't even a key in the lockbox. They're like, oh yeah, we just went into escrow this morning.
Yeah. So it was extremely frustrating to say the least.
Yeah.
It didn't help that because she's a first-time home buyer, doesn't have a ton of work experience coming right out of college, she had to get an FHA loan. And sellers, we learned, don't like to sell their homes to buyers with FHA loans because there are certain repairs that FHA may require before it goes into escrow. Meaning maybe you have to get your bushes trimmed, just kind of bullshit, I guess. And sellers just don't want to deal with that. And FHA makes you do that.
Well, yes. But according to our lender, not as much as they used to.
It's true. You're absolutely right. People see FHA and they freak, and our lender did explain that those are days of the past. They don't do that as much anymore.
The perception is that you are more subject to rigorous inspections as an FHA selling to an FHA buyer than you would normally be if you were just selling to somebody
conventional.
Yeah, in a conventional loan.
So we tried to get her a conventional loan because we wanted to make her more appealing, but the amount of money the banks would give her was really low.
It dropped.
Yeah, $150,000. There were no homes available.
Yeah, it dropped by like $75,000.
Mm-hmm. So like we had to stick with FHA. So it was hard.
I love you go,
because every time she saw a house, it was always gone.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening is we found her a house. But because we had been through so much heartache on homes that she liked and were snatched quickly.
Yep.
We just offered a full price for this house.
From the photos, it looked amazing. I mean, it sounds like such a dipshit saying that, but it's true.
Look, we did as much recon, and so did the real estate agent. Yeah. I mean, he told us this area is a very nice area, and Parker drove around and said there are $700,000 homes, there are $200,000 homes, but it wasn't an area that had been overrun with, I don't know.
Gangs. Go ahead, just say it. Gangs.
Well, gangs are not just
what are you
gangs.
Thinking about?
I'm thinking like strip malls, stuff like that. Like it was more of like a cute neighborhood.
It's kind of a neighborhood that's sectioned off. It's on the south side of Corpus Christi. It's sectioned off a little bit from all the strip malls, and the streets there are actually somewhat drivable. We've talked at length about how Corpus Christi has a long way to go in terms of infrastructure, but
it's a good area. That's what we know.
It is a good area. The houses were nice, and it was like one of those areas where it was like different walks of life are living in there.
Yeah.
And so you had some older people, you had some new buyers, you had some families that had been there for a little while, that kind of thing.
I mean, there were people at her work every time she was interested in a house who would say, no, don't do that. That area is terrible.
Yeah.
Or that street's really busy. You won't be able to get out of your driveway. And when she had mentioned this area to all of her friends at work, everyone said, oh, that's a really nice area. So all of this to say, we were super excited that she found a house. They would accept an FHA buyer.
Yep.
And so we offered full price. We didn't even negotiate.
We'd been just knowing what a frenzy it was over the previous 5 houses that she was interested in or what have you. It's like, okay, you know what? We know what she can get approved for. This certainly fits that budget. And then some. So that was good. There was a little bit of wiggle room there. She wasn't totally maxing out. But yeah, it was like we had to move. We had to move on it. So
yeah. So the beauty of the house is that it's has never been remodeled. And the downside of the house is that it's never been remodeled. So you're walking into 1983.
Yeah.
So yeah. So okay, anyone who's ever bought a house knows the piles of paperwork you have to provide. And as a first-time home buyer, she's unaware. So all the emails are coming to James and I. Yeah. All the questions. It was just annoying. And I don't know. I know there's real estate agents out there that are, I know you can agree with me. You will never say it. You just need 2 pieces of paper to sell a house. Here's what you need to know as a buyer. Has anyone died in this house? Was it ever used as a meth lab? And is there like an ancient burial ground in the back? That's all you want to know. Yeah. That's it. Those are the 3 things. 2 pieces of paper, all we need. I do not understand hundreds and hundreds of pieces of paper. It's total and utter freaking bullshit.
And as it turns out, that pile was not going to get any smaller because as we went on, we were advised that because of the way Parker's job processes her overtime pay, that you and I were going to have to be the co-signers on this loan.
Yes. So that came up out of the blue, which was fine until we realized all the paperwork that we now have to supply for ourselves. So, so that was annoying.
I've had to supply more invasive info on our finances as a co-signer for her than I had to buying our Florida investment property.
It's true. Yeah, it's absolutely true. And you can't get mad at the lender, even though I do want to like get mad.
Even though we do.
I want to tell Darlene and Michael, do not call me anymore about this. Don't ask me another question.
I know. I got a little like the one day in the car, remember I got a little like frustrated and terse with Darlene. And I feel so bad.
I know, because she's so sweet.
She's awesome.
Yeah.
She's like, she and Michael have been so great. And I'm sorry, Darlene, if you're listening to the show, I know I was a little edgy that one day.
And it's not even her. It's the bank that's asking. She's just the messenger.
Yeah. She's just like, do you want this for your kid or not? And finally I was like, okay, I'll send it.
So what we've learned several things. Okay. The first thing we learned is that please make sure your real estate agent and your lender get along.
Nice. Oh my gosh.
It went off the rails quick with those.
It really did.
Those two.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly where it went off the rails, but Patrick, who was so instrumental in helping Parker find this house and who's been a great advocate for her throughout this whole process, and our lender, for whatever reason, quickly were not on the same page with each other. I don't know if it's a Texas versus California thing.
Oh, it was.
I know it was probably like, I do think our real estate agent in Texas would have preferred to use the lender in Texas that he was accustomed to using.
Oh, yeah. He asked me, he suggested his lender, and I immediately said, oh, we have a lender we've used in the past that we really, really like. So we're going to go with him.
Yeah.
The day it opened, an hour after escrow, Patrick was sending them the nastiest emails. Yeah. It was insane. And the craziest part about it is Patrick is an ex-priest who is so sweet with Parker, has been nothing but kind to us. So when Michael was telling me our real estate agent was going off on them, I couldn't wrap my head around it. And Michael said, let me just give you some perspective. And he sent me this email that Patrick sent to them.
Michael getting the wrath of God. I love it.
All he asked for was what the taxes were. And then he asked the title company what the taxes were in the county that Parker's buying the house. And something set Patrick off.
No,
and
seems like a one sentence answer, right?
And they have not been friends since.
They have not.
No, not due to anything Michael's done. Michael's like, I'm just staying in my lane.
Yeah, I mean...
And so
it's weird. I mean, it's at the end is business, and everyone all wants to get paid. So but it's like the acrimony, and there have been a few jabs from Patrick along the way. Like, this lender really drives me crazy. I would never use this lender, or however he says it.
And then I have to be really nice about it because because I want the deal to finish, and so I'll say. Like, I'll just text Patrick back and say something like, oh, well, let me find out about this because we've never had a problem with this lender. Like the other day, the buyer wants to close early, which we're fine with. I'm sorry, the seller. The seller wants to close early. We're the buyer. The seller wants to close early.
The buyer wants to close early too. They want this shit over with. Go on.
And so Patrick sends me a text, the real estate agent, and says, can we close early? The sellers want to know. And I'm like, okay, let me reach out to Michael and Darlene. Yeah. So Darlene's like, oh, we don't have a problem closing early. We're waiting on the survey of the house. And I said, who's in charge of that? Thinking I can make a phone call, right? Yeah. And she said, oh, the title company. Well, Patrick owns the title company. Okay. So now I call Patrick and I say, hey, Patrick, we can definitely close early, but we're waiting on the survey. And from my understanding from the lender,
it's on your desk.
Yeah. They've been waiting. And so then he says, that's impossible. Second day we opened escrow. We sent them the survey. I've been really unhappy with this lender since the beginning, but so he goes off on Michael and Darlene. I don't say a word to Michael or Darlene about this. I know they're going to hear it now.
They already know.
Yeah. And so
they already know they already know that there's no love lost there.
He goes off about it. And I said, okay. I said, if you sent it, then maybe, because I'm trying to play nice. I said, maybe it slipped through the cracks. Let me get a hold of them. I call Darlene back and I say, hey, so he's saying he sent it to you on the second day of escrow. And I'm wondering, did it maybe slip through the cracks knowing it didn't, but I just have to ask, right? And so she goes, oh, no. Here, we got an email at the beginning of the week from his title company saying the survey is behind. They hired the wrong person because they weren't familiar with this county. They had to send someone else out, and the survey should be done late afternoon on Friday. And this was Friday morning. So then I am about to email Patrick. And as I'm sending the email, I'm typing it out. Patrick immediately calls me and says, my mistake. I got two houses confused. The survey is not going to be done till today. So never even said, I'm sorry, your lender actually has been doing a good job. He just said,
no, he's not going to say that.
No, he said, I'm really sorry. Just got the wires crossed. I was like, fine, cool, whatever. It's just such a bummer because I actually like Patrick. and I would
Same.
want to use him again, but I can't because
we're always going to have the same lender.
Yeah, that will never go away.
Multiple transactions. And came highly recommended from a number of our friends with tricky situations and all that.
Yeah.
So,
so the lender
this
stayed.
is a no-brainer. Yeah. It's like our California lender got us a better rate on the Florida property than the Florida lender could get us.
Yeah, it's true.
The California guy stays. Sorry to any future real estate agents we may be dealing with. Get used to some California in your life.
I know.
So for those of you who are not up to speed, I know several people probably know, and maybe some people who follow us on social media or whatever, but in the middle of our trip, by the way, to Orange Beach and loving life at Orange Beach, Gulf Shores, Fairhope, Alabama, which is fantastic. In the middle of that, we realized, holy crap, like we could lose our earnest money if we do not schedule the inspection in time. And we knew that having a 23-year-old daughter do her inspection for the very first house that she's ever bought, unattended by her parents, was going to be a huge mistake. So in 24 hours, we flew out of Pensacola and got to Corpus Christi for a 9 a.m. Monday inspection. Was it 9 a.m.? Doesn't matter. 10 a.m. It felt like 9 a.m. I don't know. It was a blur.
We didn't even sleep.
Did the inspection and then flew back to Orange Beach to finish our tour for the show. Yeah. It was insane. It was an insane 24 hours, but it was so worth it because, I just cannot. Okay. So there was a point during the inspection where the inspector was taking us around and showing us a couple things, the HVAC, the sink, the this, the that. And I look over at Parker, and she looks like Baby Yoda.
She's just glazed.
Just glazed over and looking at me, not understanding a single word that the inspector's saying. All she can think about is where the TV is going to go.
Yeah. She literally was just concerned about the television.
It was ridiculous because in that moment, she was like 5 years old in my eyes again. It was like, why are we buying this kid a house? She's so not ready for this. She is. She absolutely is.
No, she's totally ready.
She's totally ready. She's
like
totally responsible. I know. But it's like she doesn't know what she doesn't know. And there's a part of me where it's like, oh my God, if my parents were buying me a house at this age, I probably would just be like, I'm putting a keg in the garage and I'm putting a TV over there. So
yeah.
In fairness to Parker, she was just doing what 23-year-old kids do. So
yeah. So we go there. We go to the inspection and earnest money really quick. Most people know what this is, but it's a couple $1,000s you put down basically saying, I like this house, put it on hold for me until the inspection is over. And you have about 10 days to get all your inspectors in and out. Okay, here's something. It's so hard.
Or you lose that money.
Yeah. If you back out, you lose it if you back out. So when we bought our very, very first house, what I didn't realize at all was that as a buyer paying for the inspector, that's your employee. That is your employee. You are paying for them. You can ask them any question you want.
Yeah.
But can I tell you, at 30 years old and at 54 years old, it is the same. Real estate agents do not want you talking to the inspector.
It's crazy.
They are so afraid that that inspector is going to kill the deal. So when I was 30 years old, I remember my real estate agent letting me be in the house with the inspector, but not allowing me to talk to him. He kept saying, you can't talk to him. Don't ask him any questions. And at 30 years old, I actually thought the seller was paying for this. Right. So I was very, very respectful.
Yeah.
Not even knowing I paid for the inspector. I owned him. I can call him as much as I want.
Well, you don't own him.
I did.
You did not.
but okay.
You were paying him to provide a service. Yes.
At 54 years old, I know I just paid $800 for this inspector who basically is there for me. Mm-hmm. Patrick did not want us in the house.
He did not.
He literally said, don't go in the house. And I'm like, I'm paying this guy. Like, I'm paying this guy. I'm going to go in the house. And when we got there, the inspector said, I love it when the owners are here. He said, I can show you. I'm so sorry. The buyers are here. I can show you all the things that are in the report that may not come across, as favorable as it is.
Yeah, but they're not life and death.
Right. He's like, in person, it's so much easier to explain, but on paper, it may seem like, oh, this is terrible.
Yeah.
So
I do understand Patrick's point of allowing the inspector time to go in and do the inspection and then meeting up with him, some sort of overlap, like giving them a full hour or something, or hour and a half, whatever that is. So
okay, sure,
that was his point.
But I'm telling
early
you,
on.
yes.
But he also his first comment to us was, you're going to want to wait to go in until the inspection's over. And we were like, no, we're totally going to be there for some of it.
I'm telling you, as a first-time home buyer, you're paying that inspector to do his job.
Yep.
Yes, you want him to do it, so you don't want to be interrupting him the entire time, but you're paying him. I cannot get this across enough because I think too many agents are scared that the inspector will frighten the new buyer away, and they don't want the new buyer anywhere near the inspection, but the new buyer is paying for the inspection. It makes no sense. Here's my suggestion also. And I wish if we had had more time, I would have done this. I would have brought in an independent electrician and an independent plumber to look at the house, because an inspector is just kind of like an umbrella for everything, but he's not a plumber and he's not an electrician. He can point out things that don't look right to him.
Yeah.
But the truth is, please, like if I ever do this again, which we will for ourselves, I will definitely have an electrician there and a plumber, and I won't be out of state when I'm doing it. I will make sure I'm in state. But look,
it's worth the extra couple $100. You're gonna pay them about $100 an hour or something like that to go in and oversee everything.
Exactly.
But it's worth it.
Now, your real estate agent may balk. Who cares? Who cares? You're buying this house. You have to know that it is going to stand the test of time, because you could be there for 15, 20 years. I have a friend who bought a house, and her biggest regret right now is that she didn't have a plumber when they had their inspection, because the moment they walked in, they've had nothing but plumbing problems. Their backyard's been flooded.
Like 2 or 3 months later, they were dropping $15,000 on solving some problems with the plumbing.
And it would have cost them maybe $300 with a plumber to come in and look at the house.
Yeah, and they could have got that in a comp.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so we meet the inspector. All right, we hop on a plane. Now, there's a lot going through both of our heads. Obviously, we're seeing the house for the first time. The inspector is pointing out everything bad about this house.
Yeah.
Everything. My head is spinning. Parker is asking us in the car on the way to the airport, do you like the house? Do you like the house? Like, am I making the right decision? James is in his head. Then a family group text comes through, and we're on the way to the airport.
We're going to do this. My God, we had already. Okay, go on. You want me to be? We haven't even talked about the contractor yet, which pisses me off.
No.
And now we're going to talk about this, which pisses me more off. Okay.
So we get a photo sent to us from our youngest daughter, Ellie, Division I volleyball athlete.
You love saying Division I.
I do, because she works so hard for it. So shut up.
Okay.
She's made all your dreams come true. So
I
you
work
just
so
stop.
hard for
So
it.
you just stop. Okay.
I work
She
so hard
made
for
all
it.
your dreams come true. She sends us a photo. She had an ingrown toenail, which she has had through the course of her whole life since soccer. She's had all these ingrown toenails, all of them taken out successfully. And then just recently, a new one came up for her. And she sends us a photo. She went to a doctor to get her ingrown toenail taken out, and they removed half of her toenail. I'm in the car, and I screamed in the car. Didn't I scream?
You screamed.
And then what happened? I went.
And then we all looked at our phones to see the toe. And at first, she was like wearing it as a badge of honor. Look at the size of this thing they removed. And the rest of us were horrified because half of her toenail was missing. And it was so much of an overreach in terms of procedure. Dr.
Siebel is listening right now, and her and Dr. Maslia have taken such good care of Ellie's toes all these years. And so
they're pouring some out right now.
Oh, if Dr. Siebel saw this, she would be freaking out.
Yeah.
So I can't even think straight. I have legitimately spiraled out. I call every single person. I call the team doctor. I just went crazy.
You did? You went crazy.
Then what happened?
You were full-blown Karen mode. For sure.
Yeah, because she can't play.
Well, it turns out when her team doctor scheduled her an appointment to go and get this procedure taken care of at the hospital. It's a clinic. It's a clinic.
A clinic adjacent to
it doesn't
a hospital.
matter. He sent her to an OBGYN.
Yep.
An OBGYN. Ellie got her toenail removed.
By a resident. With an attending.
Who was being with an attending.
Both OBGYNs.
Both OBGYNs. If you were the team doctor for a particular team and you had this great job, great opportunity. You worked your ass off to get there and be involved in athletics and, at the NCAA level. That's a huge deal. Why on earth would you send? Why on earth would you like, it just defies logic to me. Why would you send an athlete who has that's like if somebody pulled a ligament in their knee, sending them to an eye doctor.
I know exactly what
it was so
Mm-hmm.
Unfathomable. It was just like, okay, I guess we don't care whether or not the players are on the court next week.
They were literally sending those kids to any
like,
doctor.
what if she had a real problem, like a huge problem? In the end, it's a problem, but it's not like life-threatening or it's not career-ending.
Yeah, the university is just as much to blame as these two doctors who took it upon themselves to practice taking out an ingrown toenail. And that's what it was. They practiced. So this is how we operate together. I spin out immediately and I'm going to burn everything to the ground.
And you started.
And he's delayed.
I'm a slow burn.
So what will take about 4 or 5 days for me to start tearing apart, it hits him on day 5. And then his delayed reaction is just so weird because I've already gone crazy. So when he finally goes crazy, I'm like, this is a little
Everybody
late.
else gets big-eyed and looks at me like,
this is a little late.
Welcome to the party.
So I don't even know. I can't tell. There's not enough time in this podcast to tell everybody what I did.
You started your email campaign and your phone campaign before we were even out of Orange Beach, before we were even out of Texas.
No, we were in the airport.
Yeah.
Okay, so the very first phone call was to the first person that referred Ellie to
the team trainer.
So I called her. Now she's a young girl. She's in her 20s. So I was very clear with her I sent her a picture of the toenail. And she was like, oh, okay. And I said to her, I know you don't pick the hospital. I know you did not make the relationship with this hospital. So now I'm going to hang up with you and call your boss. And she was like, okay, let me give you her number.
Well,
okay. So I had already had it. I'd called her boss. Then I called the next boss. Then I went to the next person. So then what happened?
And you were calling the hospital, the clinic.
Oh, the clinic. So the clinic would not return my calls. The 2 doctors wouldn't return my calls. The attending wouldn't return my call. The resident wouldn't return my call.
There were 2 problems. They didn't communicate what they were going to do before they did it. And the second problem was they didn't tell her how it was going to impact in the short run her playing time. And the long run, the cosmetic look of her toe for the rest of her life. So that's kind of a huge problem.
It is. And so I wanted to speak with both of them and neither one would return my calls. They refused to return my calls. So
let's rewind for a second. You told the girl at the clinic who was answering the phone, who had the misfortune of having to answer the phone when you were calling. You told her, I'm so sorry. I need a call back because otherwise I'm just going to have to torture you.
I did say that. I did.
And I don't want to have to torture you.
She was very nice. I did not want to torture her.
And I said to you, this is a sign of maturity for you, because 20 years ago, you would have said, I'm going to torture you until I get answers.
And I would have said that.
And this time you said, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to torture you.
I know. I've really grown.
That's a lot of progress, honey.
It is.
I'm very proud of you.
Thank you. And then what happened was the 4th day I called, because I'd been calling every day, a couple times a day. The 4th day I called, someone new got on the phone. So yeah.
The office manager.
And your
new friend.
She was the closer. She told me.
She was the brick wall.
She was.
Yeah.
She told me to stop calling, that the doctor was never going to call me back. The doctors did not owe me a phone call. And if I had a problem with the level of care they had given Ellie, to go to urgent care. So then I love these phone calls, I got to say, because someone like her really could destroy someone who isn't as experienced as handling these people as I am. So if you're like a sweet little mom from Kansas, you're going to hang up and cry. But if you lived in LA for 25 years and have constantly been told to
we out on these streets.
Yeah.
We out on these streets, babe.
To get into the back of the line and shut the F up. Yeah. So I was like, okay, come on, bring it. I was like, okay. Then I said to her, okay, so you're willing You're willing to sever your relationship with Seattle University because this is a student athlete. They referred to your hospital, and I'm going to tell them what you just told me. And she said, yep.
So after a quick little Google search, we were able to find what's his title?
Oh, chief medical officer.
The chief medical officer of the clinic in question.
And the president of the hospital.
And I remember this was a Friday night.
Yeah.
And it was around 6 p.m. Pacific time in Seattle. And you fired off your message to both of them, and you got a response right away.
I did. So I had to file a formal complaint with the hospital, which I did. And then I wrote a really nice email to the chief medical officer and the president of the hospital and sent them pictures of her toenail. And sure, people get wrong legs removed all the time.
Jesus.
This is just a toenail, but they just needed to know how someone was behaving with 18-year-old athletes. That's what this was about. There had to be a check and balance somewhere. This girl.
Yeah, and the school has invested money in these athletes.
Absolutely. And the buck couldn't stop with the 35-year-old girl who told me to stop calling.
Yeah.
Like it just
told
wasn't.
you to go piss off.
Uh-huh. I emailed him, boom, right away, got an email from somebody. They called Ellie. So I don't know what's going to happen. My goal is I want this girl fired.
Can I tell you something?
It's not going to happen. I know.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. Call her this next week. She'll still be answering.
I know
phone.
she will.
Yeah.
I did my best. I can
did your
walk
best.
away.
And then you took it over on the school side.
Yeah.
And
I'm still working on it there.
I know, because you came to me the other day. So in the middle of all this, like it was 4 days out, the doctor still hadn't called Ellie. I blew my stack finally one day because I was just so tired of like hearing everything. It was all noise, or it was all like stonewalling on the part of the hospital. And you actually did get a lot of help from one of the administrative staff at Seattle University, one of the second athletic director.
Yeah, she's amazing.
But I was 4 days in, and I still did not know the answer to the question, why did they have to take off half the nail? And will it grow back? Those two questions were still, and I lost my shit in the office that one day.
Yeah. You said you're going to sue everybody. You started screaming, I'm going to get an attorney. And I'm like, we don't know one.
Plus it's a toenail.
It's a toenail.
Nobody's going to take my case.
Let him spin out.
I know. But I was just like so angry. At that point, I really was starting to get angry at Ellie. I'm not going to lie, because it was like, she was just going about her life, you know?
Oh,
and she was good. Like, she was like, oh, you know, mom's upset and they probably shouldn't have done that to my nail, but it's probably not going to grow back, but well, whatever. And it's like, no, whatever. Like, you can't, if we can't trust you to walk into a clinic's room.
Yeah.
What are you calling? I can't even talk right now.
It's a clinic. It's a clinic.
If you can't walk into like the procedure room or whatever and like not ask the questions, then mom has to do all this stuff for it. Anyway.
Wait, during all of this. So let me just explain. Okay. I've got you screaming at me on the phone that you can't believe nothing's been answered. The lady just told me to literally like hit the bricks. Mm-hmm. And then while this is happening, Parker is texting me photos of pink couches
to bring it back full circle,
asking me if I think this pink couch will look good in the living room. Uh-huh. I mean, I'm not lying when I tell you all this was happening at once. And I just was like, I'm just going to throw this phone away.
Yeah.
Just going to throw this phone away. So, okay. So where are we right now? So
so where it is right now is, the athletic director met with Ellie. And they came up with, sort of some recommendations between the two of them and what should happen in the future when something like this comes up. And at the very least, Ellie being a poli-sci major, it shows you what can get done, I guess, when you fire off enough emails and contact all the right people, Yeah,
maybe she'll learn something from it.
I hope it's illustrative.
I did have to have a FaceTime with all the girls because Ellie kept rolling her eyes. And at one point she asked me to stop calling. Mm-hmm. And I had to have a FaceTime with all three girls and just explain to them that the reason I do this is not to be a Karen, but to show how much we care. And it's not about me getting one over on somebody or me being the boss. It's about me showing them that adults can't treat you like this. and think that it's okay, because
it's not okay for a doctor to do a procedure and not tell you what they're going to do.
yes. And when you're 18 years old, you don't know what kind of questions to ask. When you're 45 years old, you don't know what kind of questions to ask. So I'm going to always be their biggest advocate. And if that makes them uncomfortable, they have to either tell me and I'll stop or deal with it. And they all said they'll deal with it.
They did.
They all said they preferred it.
But the best part of that conversation was Parker was in such a hurry to get off the phone that day.
Yeah, she didn't even want to.
And then
bothered.
like a half an hour later, somebody said something to her at work about how her schedule is going to be permanently changed to some undesirable hour or day or whatever. Yeah. And she's like screaming. And I said, one of the things I said to them while you were on the phone with them, I said, listen, I'm an empty nester and I have no children to raise. You guys are all off technically you're all off on your own. I'm trying to help you as much as I can as your advocate. Good word. From here on out, it's a consultation, but I'm just letting you know, like if something rises to the level of something serious, if somebody does something seriously wrong to you, I'm not afraid to do the time, you know?
That did not help the conversation at all.
I told them I will do a stretch of 25, like standing on my head. No problem. If some guy messes with you, anything.
You will be someone's little bitch so fast.
I don't think so. I'm a pretty big dude.
There's bigger ones in there.
Unfortunately, I probably have to join the Aryan Nation, and I'm diametrically opposed to their political policies.
Yeah, Black Lives Matter will not take you.
But the Brotherhood will not take me.
No, they will not.
No. So anyway, the end result of that conversation was Parker calling me an hour later and saying, they said this, and they said I'm going to be on this weird schedule. And she's freaking out. And I told her on the phone, I said, hey, I go, does this rise to the level of me going to prison? Because if it doesn't, I'm out. And she was like, and she hung up the phone on me.
Is that where we are now? The bar is prison?
Yeah, the bar is prison.
So if they have a problem and the problem doesn't lead to prison time, they shouldn't call you.
I should have like 3 or 4 questions lined up. Is this costing me money? How much should I care? And do I need to go to the clink? You know? Those should be like my 3 questions when they call me with their problems.
No, those should be their 3 questions before they even call you.
They should be, yeah. But
it's always going to cost you money. So that question's out.
Yeah.
I think it should just be really prison time.
The best part in all this was I was fully prepared that week to call Mia, who we haven't even talked about, and tell her, Mia, this slum that you're living in Salt Lake City, which everybody has heard about, you can decide to stay there, but I'm not paying these people anymore for your shitty apartment.
And do you know why you didn't make that phone call?
Because she's the only kid that's not giving me a headache right now. I was going to tell her to get a job. I was going to tell her to do all this stuff. And it's like, I know your little part-time job and all that other stuff, but you really have to start contributing to your,
she's so lucky.
Expenses.
Ellie's toenail is missing and Parker's in escrow.
I know. So it was like I saw her face on the FaceTime, and I was looking at the other 2, and I was like, I'm gonna leave Mia alone. She gives me no trouble. That kid gives me no trouble. Anyhow, so in the middle of all this, turns out Parker needed some fixes done to her house.
Oh yeah, and then that sent him over the edge.
So let me jump into that. We scheduled a handyman to go out to Parker's house because there were certain requirements as a buyer that we decided we were going to do to secure the FHA funding. And
they were minimal.
Mostly cosmetic stuff.
Talk about that. We were told
some paneling that was rotted at the bottom of the house on the exterior.
We were told from the appraiser about $500.
Yeah. We were told from the appraiser about $500.
Now, normally, let me just say this real quick. The seller takes care of this. But the seller was doing some big ticket items for us, like rewiring electrical box and handling plumbing. So just out of the kindness of our heart, we thought we'll show goodwill. We'll pay for these little fixes because it was like $500.
Yeah, $500. So we get the estimate back and it's $2,200. $2,200. It seemed astronomical to me.
100%. But here's the thing. I couldn't find any anybody to do the job. There was one other guy beside him that I got from our inspector, and he didn't speak English. His bid came in at $1,300 or $1,400, which I thought so expensive. So then when this came in at 22, I was like, this is astronomical. It's supposed to be 500. But the first guy didn't speak English. We're not in Texas. Parker isn't going to oversee the job. I couldn't run the risk of this guy doing it incorrectly and then us having to pay to redo it.
Barrier, sure.
So I came to you and said, he's very expensive, but his English is perfect. And he sounds like he knows what he's talking about. He came highly recommended from our real estate agent. You spoke with him.
Yeah. He talked a great game. He talked a lot, actually.
Too much.
Yeah. So then we get his invoice back and $3,400 later.
Yep.
I am losing my shit. So I call him up and I just said, hey, 4 pieces of paneling, a sink.
No, not a sink. It's a faucet. Go ahead.
What was the third thing? Oh, taking the shutters off. There were old, ancient, rusty hurricane shutters on the windows. FHA required some of those to be off because there was no fire egress, right? Okay, so we're boring people with real estate terms now. But bottom line was he had to remove some shutters. He had to do some siding. And then he also had to replace the faucet in the kitchen sink.
Just replace the faucet.
Yeah. But I'm like, dude, like, are you kidding me with like charging me an extra $1,000 in labor for these two? Well, my sons were here with me and we did that one thing and we started doing it the one way that Denise and I talked about, but that's the way I should have done it this way to begin with. I should have recommended that. And I was like, dude, I go, Sam, I cannot, like, how do you charge this much? $3,400? Are you kidding
insane.
me?
I don't even know.
Insane.
But we were between a rock and a hard place. So I don't even know what my suggestion would be for someone like this.
I know what my suggestion is. My suggestion is I should have been in Texas.
They wouldn't have let you fix it. They wouldn't have let me fix it,
but I could have been there to oversee it.
He still was going to charge you $3,400. He would
not have charged me $3,400. He said, oh, well, it's going to be a lot more for this. And I would have been like, oh, well, pack your shit and get the fuck out.
Then who would you have gotten?
I would have found somebody, but I would have been there. That's the point.
Oh, okay. So I guess you have to be there.
Yeah, you should definitely be there when work is being performed on your house. Rule number one, especially because mistakes were made on the second day he was there, or the first day he was there, or whatever. And I wasn't involved with that. So, note to self, I should have been involved with it to begin with, because I really do feel like, I hate to say it, but I think he had a little bit of the car mechanic thing going on.
Oh, for sure.
Where he totally took advantage of a woman. And
no, he took advantage of you too. He had you on the phone. You actually spoke with him on the phone before he even purchased any materials the weekend before. And he told you what he was going to do. I had an understanding
of what he was going to do. And you and he talked about something entirely different.
And I don't know why. I have no idea why he would call me.
That's my point.
I don't know why he would call me and say, this is what we're going to do. And I said, do whatever you said you were going to do on the estimate. I kept saying that to him because I'm not a contractor. I have no freaking clue. But
the fact that he was talking to you versus talking to me, say no more. So anyway.
Look, props to him. He squeezed another $1,000 out of us. But here's what I never understand from a contractor. And any contractor listening out there, hey, send us a message and tell us what it really is, because I'd love to know. We'll never use this guy again. So he got $1,000, but to be honest with you, there's probably $10,000 to $15,000 worth of work. I was
just going to say that
needs to be done on that house.
I told him on the phone. I said, Sam, at this rate, I can't have you back. I can't look around this house, Sam. You've seen the house. You've been in there. Stuff needs to be done. Like, at this rate, I cannot have you back in this house. Like, we're talking at least $15,000 worth of repairs.
Did you actually say that to him?
Yes.
You said that $15,000.
I did.
Oh.
And
I did not know you said that.
Yeah, I did.
How did he respond?
He's like, well, I'm sorry, but there were mistakes made, and
he wasn't
a misunderstanding. He did not back down. My sons still need to get paid, and everybody thinks it's just because of my sons. It was like, but they're grown men. They need. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not questioning all that. What I'm saying is, it shouldn't be $1,000. I said your rates were already expensive for what you were charging, and now you want to charge me $1,000 more.
Well, this is a learning experience, which I feel like it shouldn't be. I feel at this point down the road, us being the age we are, it should not be a learning experience. It should be a more tailored and a more refined experience. But somehow we got between the real estate agent look, I'm not blaming the real estate agent that we paid full price, but whatever. Okay. Paid full price. The real estate agent and the lender don't get along. We have a contractor who was so okay with just, adding another $1,000 to a bill. We're not there. Then we have a kid whose toenail is removed while we have another kid asking if a disco ball will look good in her living room.
That sums up our experience. And meanwhile, Mia is up in Utah right now, living her best life and flying under the radar.
She is totally flying under radar in that slummy apartment. Yeah.
She definitely bought herself some more time. Or should I say her sisters bought her some time?
You're right. They did.
Yeah.
What would you do differently with this third home buying experience? Like what I say, always bring a plumber and electrician, but that still doesn't.
To inspect.
Right.
Yes.
Those are my definite two.
I would say we did not buy this sight unseen. Like we actually saw it, even though she was in escrow, we were still within our period of earnest and everything where we could have backed out of the deal, but I could have been there. So I would say in the future, when we buy our own next property, I will definitely make it a point to be in that city while I'm there, even if it costs me money to stay somewhere.
I don't know a workaround with that. Like, I mean, if there's someone that could say to us, hey, next time this happens, you should go to this website because they have really honest contractors. Honest contractors, an oxymoron, I think, but whatever. But you can get an honest day's work out of people on this website. I don't know if there's such a place. I remember Angie's List used to be like a place. But then
fire.
Now it's just all ads and people who.
Oh my God. Remember those guys when we were doing work on the house in LA?
Yes.
Like they sent me out like 10 of the most expensive contractors in Los Angeles.
So I don't know where to go anymore. I really don't. And you can't go. I mean.
Well, everybody uses Nextdoor. So we've had up or down luck with that.
You know what? That is true. Maybe we could have used Nextdoor.
I mean, we had a good experience here in Florida. We had a bad experience in California. We had a okay experience here in Florida. And then I had a guy that I called like when the refrigerator went on the fritz, and he called me back and he said, well, it sounds like you're pretty handy. So why don't you just order a new compressor and just, it's 3 clips, pull it out, and then you can install it yourself. And it's like, the dude didn't make a penny off of me. But this thing goes on the fritz, he's going to be out here. I guarantee he'll be the person I call. So.
Okay. So Nextdoor. So, okay. But if anybody has any ideas of if you're buying a property and you're not in the same state and you need a handyman, what would you suggest? Because I really like to know. Because we went with our real estate agent who now says I should have never recommended him. I don't like to recommend people.
Yeah.
I think to myself, real estate agents should have a Rolodex, just age myself, but a Rolodex full of referrals. When a real estate agent doesn't have that, I think that's weird.
They should have a Dewey Decimal System of contractors.
Whatever. Don't you agree, though?
I do. I think our situation was a little different this time because we actually had to do the repairs before escrow could close.
But doesn't it go back to, don't you think a real estate agent should have a list of people?
I do, but I absolutely 100% appreciate why they don't want to recommend people. If you and I were nightmare clients, maybe we are. I don't know. I don't think we are. But if you have nightmare clients or high maintenance clients or clients that you didn't want to be there for the inspection, it could totally kill the deal. Oh. You recommend a handyman. The thing you got to remember too is like, again, it's like FHA. We had to do all this stuff before they could actually like give us the paperwork. In most cases, the real estate agent doesn't care who you hire as a handyman because you're doing the work after you've already moved in. The sale is over. The process is done.
I want to do things differently with our next buy.
So do I. We're going to be wherever we're purchasing, we're going to be staying there.
All right. So listen, if you're listening to the show and you have income property, share your story with us. I want to know how you make it work because I know there are plenty of people that own properties not in the state they live in. How do they do it? Maybe there's something we're missing because I really feel like maybe we are missing something. Maybe the whole Nextdoor thing was it. I have no idea. Maybe I should look down there.
I mean, it's the closest thing I've found.
Yeah, I agree.
The other thing I wanted to say, going all the way back to your post that you read
that
from
started this
real
whole
estate
podcast.
Company. Yeah. I think it's important in reading the comments. It's like, I get it. Like there are people who just don't even know how to go about trying to buy their first house. Their finances are really, really tight. They're fixed, all that other stuff.
Sure.
And throwing all your money away in rent every single year after year after year and buying cars instead of buying houses is a sure way to stay in poverty. So the one thing I definitely want to recommend is Habitat for Humanity. You think they just build houses for like ultra poor people or Section 8 housing or whatever it is, whatever their thing is. They actually have resources where you can go in and sit down and talk about the financing aspect of getting a house. If you're a first-time buyer, a low-income buyer, you would not believe that there are a variety of things that can probably get you into a house. And
is that also for big markets like LA and
absolutely.
New York? Okay.
I mean, they're everywhere.
I've heard of their program.
Yeah.
Some people that live in the big markets just feel like there's no way. And sometimes there isn't. That's why I'm asking.
I mean, some people just make too much money to get, a Habitat for Humanity house. But still the point is they still have consultants there. They're free to talk to that can help you with your exact situation, whatever it may be. So maybe you don't qualify for one of the Habitat for Humanity homes. You still qualify to go and sit and talk to one of their professionals.
That's a great idea.
Highly recommend. Here comes the dog. We got to wrap this up. The last thing that I will say is whether or not you have children in school like we did, it's pretty important to buy a home, if you can, that has a good school district. This impacts your resale value more than you could ever imagine. So keep that in mind when you're out looking for your own properties, wherever they may be.
That's true, because Patrick even said to us, Parker's buying in an area that has a really good school district. And I was like, she's 23. Who cares? He's like, well, she may not care, but when she resells it, if someone comes in with a family, they're going to love that. I was like, oh, we just learned something.
We did. So anyway, more to come on Corpus Christi, but on a happier note, we are also hitting a couple cities along the way. Auburn, Alabama.
Yes, we are.
Nice.
Auburn's going to be really fun.
See what you pulled out of your hat on that one, because I'm just not privy to that information
It's going to be good.
Laurel, Mississippi.
Yep.
And Natchitoches, which is not Natchitoches. Nacogdoches.
I think you're
Louisiana.
You're saying it wrong.
I know I'm still saying it wrong. So we're going to be hitting at least 3 cities in the next couple of weeks, along with Corpus Christi. We'll have a recap on that.
I'm going to be taking lots of video with you with your power tools fixing up her house.
I can't wait. Because after our previous contractor, I can't afford to hire anyone now.
No, it's going to be...
We gave him all our money.
Yeah, instead of Sam the contractor, it's going to be James the contractor.
Yep. With me fixing it myself, there may be a few things that are good, but probably not up to city codes. We're going to let that slide. Parker's not going to care. She's going to be happy as a pig in mud on her pink couch watching her TV.
With her disco ball.
All right. Well, on that note, we are out. We will catch you guys next week. Take them out.
Empty nest, full tank. Did I say like a lot?
Probably.
Really?
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.